Hello everyone. Today we are looking at if Kiro can Ralph. What we're doing today, really, we're building out more of our Shards project, and we're building a Ralph loop into the Kiro CLI. And here's a little bit of a walkthrough what Ralph is. So if you have followed along at all in AI on X or Twitter for the last few weeks, you have certainly seen about the Ralph loop. Basically, it's a loop that helps the AI agent self-validate. So similar things as my PRP system is based on is this now. It's created by a guy called Geoffrey Huntley. I think he created it like way back in like March or February or something. I came across it first time in April, have some prompts based on it, and my PRP framework has some learnings from there for sure. And yeah, I'm just going to go through a little bit here how it works. So I'm going to link to all of this in the description. Ryan Carson here has written like a step-by-step guide how to get it up and running with AMP. And there's like a full repo here, so I'll link that as well. And I'm just going to go through this flow diagram here. In this video later on, you can see the timestamps. We recreate this flow in Kiro step by step. So we write a PRD, we convert that PRD to this kind of like JSON structure. Then we run a script. That script breaks down of our user stories inside of our PRD into individual stories. AMP, or in our case then Kiro, picks up a story, implements it, commits those changes, updates that PRD.json, logs what it did into a progress file, checks if there's more stories, and then it just loops. At some point, it's done. So what really allows this to run for so long and so reliably is that you have to give it criteria. Success criteria, acceptance criteria, ways to self-test, self-validate. We have been through this before. If you have followed me, PRP is based on this concept as well. Give the AI agent ways to self-validate. This can be CLI tools, MCP servers, unit test, linting, type checking, whatever, really. Sky's the limit here. You can create your own kind of validation scripts and so on. So that's really the key concept. So until all of those validation that you create pass, the loop will continue. And once all of those checks pass, then it will be considered done. So yeah, let's dig into it. Today, we are continuing to build out Shards, of course, is our application that we started building yesterday. It's a CLI tool that will help us start up coding agents inside of new work trees in isolation so we can run things in parallel. So we have already gotten somewhere on this. So I'm going to open up our IDE. And yeah, we're using Kiro for this because we are building this for the Kiro hackathon. Where we left off basically yesterday is we created a POC. Basically, it is working. We haven't really tested it too much. I have gone through the testing guide here. So I know that all of the basic functionality does work. We don't have any obvious bugs there. Like the happy path of the POC works. We can start new commands. We can list open shards and we can get info about them and so on. And we can, of course, use the terminal that opens when we talk to it. So yeah, it's pretty simple right now. And what we're going to do right now is that we are going to open up agent in our terminal. So we're going to open up Kiro CLI with the trust all mode. And we're just going to say here, I think we have actually maybe an prime command here from Cole. Let's see, prompts, we have prime. So I think we should be able to just do at prime. Yeah, great. So that will prime for us. Let's just take a look at that. It goes through this process, listing the files, reading core documentation, entry point files, and so on. Okay, cool. Pretty standard stuff. Let's take a look at what it's doing. Okay, so right now there's a couple of things that I'm going to be doing. I am going to take the POC that we have and I'm going to move it over to my desired architecture. I'm a big fan of vertical slice architecture. So I'm basically going to feed it a blog post I wrote about that and have it create a plan for how to convert it over to vertical slice. Since we're so early in development, we might just do a complete rewrite. Let's go through the works here. So I'm just going to say, please take this article as input, and I want you to create an architecture.md of our desired architecture based on this article. We want to use a vertical slice architecture. We want to use the same logging structure that is mentioned in the article. and we want to kind of optimize the project for developing with AI, following all of the principles that are mentioned in these blog posts. Okay, great. So now I'm just going to go to my blog where I have things. I use this blog mainly for clients too, but the blog is mainly for me to copy context to my coding agents. I just take this, I give it here, and I take the other post, which is this, which is basically guides for how I start new projects. This is written for Python, but it can be easily converted into any language. So that's what I like to do. I'm just going to say here, the output should be a concise architecture.md that should live inside of .kiro/steering. Think about it like this when you create it. You don't have to over-explain the concept because you are the one who's going to be reading this. So you can think, if you understand the concept, you don't have to over-explain it to yourself. It needs a simple explanation, some example, and a concise natural language explanation of the concept. So that's just to keep it short. When I've done this in the past, it basically, it really likes to kind of over-explain, overdo this, and create several thousand lines. Not sure why this is not sending. Okay, so I had to restart Kiro here because it crashed when I sent such a long message. So what we're gonna do instead is just gonna create a file. I'm gonna say prompt.md. Inside of here, go to my whisper flow. So that's the thing we had there. Now we're gonna take the other thing from whisper flow and we're gonna paste it in here. So we're just gonna save that and we're gonna say, copy this relative path and go back to the terminal. Please read this and follow the instructions in there. Okay, so that works. So something happened with Kiro when the prompt was long, like many thousands and thousands of lines. So it just crashed out there. I'm gonna let this generate our architecture.md and I'll come back once that's done. Okay, so we have our architecture document here created. I'm gonna trust that this is pretty good. It seems neat. It seems pretty short, which is good. And for now, I'm gonna delete this file. We don't need that anymore. And let's see. I'm just gonna tell it here. The things that I want you to pay special attention to is the logging strategy and the vertical slice pattern, writing out the desired architecture here. Okay, perfect. I'm gonna leave it like that. Can you please commit and push the architecture.md? Okay, great. So now we want to say here, what are the main things in our current POC that is not aligning with our desired architecture? We're going to send this off here. Okay, so now we have a pretty good and primed context window here to create this kind of like plan how to move to the new architecture. So we're going to create, actually what we're going to do, we're going to test the prompts that we have from Code here. So we're going to do plan feature. We're going to need to read a little bit in this plan feature. Since it can't take an argument, this is probably just taken from Claude Code here, so it cannot take that argument as we have learned from before. And let's just see, let's see what it does here if we do this plan feature here. Okay, perfect. So it asks me, yeah, the feature that we want to implement is not really a feature. I wanted to create a plan for the refactoring needed to go into this type of architecture. Well, like there's two options here. We could just delete source and recreate it. That's totally fine if that would be easier. I think that's actually easier. Or we can create a refactoring plan. I'll leave it up to you what you think is the best path forward, but my strong recommendation is that we delete source and we recreate it from scratch. Yes, create the plan and delete source. I don't recommend you do this kind of like delete source thing here, but so what we did yesterday, right? We created a POC just to test our concept to make sure that we can get it working. That's what we did. Now today, what we do is we start building it properly. That's why I created architecture, making sure that we're following the correct patterns from scratch. Since we have written so little code, it's no harm in deleting what we had there because we know that we're in a very simple way going to be able to recreate exactly what we had yesterday, but just following the desired architecture, improving the logging system, and so on. So I'm going to recreate that from scratch, and let's just have that run. In the meanwhile, Something that I kind of want to talk about is the Ralph Loop. I'm sure that a lot of you have heard about the Ralph Loop. It's basically created by this guy, Ryan Carson. I first heard about it in probably April or something of this year. And if you go into, for those of you who know my PRP framework, if you go into like my old PRP commands here and you go into the experimental stuff here, basically, if you read some of these prompts and some of these workflows that are in here, they are basically based on the Ralph loop. There is no scripting, like there's no deterministic shell scripts in there, but it's basically prompted like a Ralph script. Big inspiration actually for PRP in when I started creating PRP in the first place. When I started creating this, of course, it was at a more infant state than what it is now. So what I've done, I've actually built the Ralph loop into PRP. So if you go to my PRP repo now, you can see I made some updates here today, and I actually created a Ralph loop. So there is a new command here. There is a lot of new commands actually in our commands. So I have stripped out all of the old commands that I no longer use. They are in old PRP commands, so you can still use them if you like. But here are the main commands that I use on a day-to-day basis. Of course, the Ralph command is new. I've only tested it a couple of times. It's pretty cool, so I highly recommend you try it out. What it does basically is it breaks the PRP down into a Ralph loop, and it can like iterates until everything is working and everything is green. So what I'm thinking that we will do once we have created this new architecture in our Kiro, we're going to test if Kiro can Ralph, and we're going to test if we're going to create the Ralph loop in Kiro essentially. So if we don't have time to do that today, we'll do that on Monday. Let's see. Anyways, you can look into more. I'll leave some of these links in the description. You can look into this thread. This is basically a full guide how to use Ralph. Here is a flow chart diagram of how Ralph works. You write a PRD, you convert that into a JSON structure of tasks. Then you run the script. In this case, then amps picks a story. We want to have Kiro here pick a story, implement, commit, and then it just runs and until it's done. So yeah, we'll test that at some point here with Kiro. It is a little bit of a token eater, so we're gonna have to look out for that. But yeah, go to the PRP agentic engineering repo, grab the new plugin. You can just install it as a plugin directly from Claude Code. Instructions are here, so you can just follow the quick start or the plugin quick start. And yeah, just get started. I'll create a dedicated video to how to do that some other day. Okay, let's go back. Let's see. So the plan is created. We want to open that. The plans should be in the artifacts, right? Where did plan get created? .agents. Okay, should be good. So what I'd like to do here, I would just say, yes, please implement it. Make sure that you self-test everything and make sure that you validate everything and don't stop until you have validated that everything works. So now we are creating a prompted Ralph loop here, essentially, by just telling it to self-test. But anyways, we'll have that run. Let's take a look when it's done here. Okay, so something that we will do here while it runs actually is, so since we, it's gonna take a while to run these things probably, we're gonna open another Kiro here, and we're actually gonna think about these commands that Cole has written for us in the prompts. What we see here a lot on these, like a lot of them have arguments. So here we have arguments in the create PRD, in the execution report. Here we have arguments in the implement plan. Prime doesn't have an argument. Quick start doesn't have an argument. Root cause analysis has an argument. So what I really want to do here, I'm going to take this relative path, and a way that I thought we can try to make these commands more Kiro friendly, since it doesn't support arguments, we're going to do this. Can you please read all of the files inside of prompts and understand which ones have arguments and which ones does not? We're wasting a bit of tokens here having it read all the files, but I'm just gonna make sure we don't miss anything because I'm gonna recreate these for you guys so that you can then also use these in your projects instead of having to rewrite all of them yourselves. I will rewrite them for you. Okay, so here we go. Okay, great. So now all of the commands that uses arguments, since arguments are not supported by the Kiro CLI, what we need to do instead is we need to figure out a way how we can feed this information that is intended to be in arguments to the agent. So I want to rewrite all of the prompts that have arguments, just the section where arguments is used, And instead of having the argument being injected as an argument, I want the agent that reads the prompt to ask the user, what should the input be? So for example, if you run at plan feature, then instead of having an argument as the input, the user should ask the question, what feature do you want to implement? Same for execute.md, where it asks for a file input. Then instead of giving the file input directly, the agent should ask the user, which file do you want to execute before it starts executing? So that should be like the first action agent takes after the argument. So that's how we intend to fix this argument issue. So I think that's going to solve all of the commands actually. So instead of having this syntax here, we just write it in a way so that the agent will ask us what we want the input to be. So yeah, that should work. Let's see. I see that you say that you're ready with all the steps. Have you tested it? I haven't seen any terminals opening up on my machine. I want you to actually test the CLI as well. And I think it should work with like shards. Shards should be the command, right? I don't know what command you created now. It's compiling. I don't really know how formatting is done in Rust either. Rust formatting. Okay, so now all of the commands should be updated. Wait, can you please commit and push all of the changes to the commands? Make sure that you only commit and push the commands, not the source folder. Okay, so now while we have that running, we're gonna quit. We're gonna open up Kiro again. So now we should basically test these, right? But we can do that later. Okay, so what I want to start doing here really now is I want to create the Ralph loop. This is going to be fun, I think. So I have some things that I have already created because I did this for the PRP before, but I'm going to tell it here. Can you please research the Ralph Wiggum loop related to AI coding and tell me what you find? So I'm basically just priming it, having it go off and do some research. Okay, so it found some information. Okay, great. Can you also now then research the Kiro CLI and the latest documentation from the Kiro CLI? So I'm just going to prime it on Kiro CLI as well. I'm going to use some of the things that I have created. We're going to use some of the things that was created by this guy here, Ryan Carson. So I'm just going to give it this guide here as well, I think. Here is also a guide. Okay, great. So it has now prime there. This one is stuck, I think. Yeah, so the Kiro CLI is hung again. That's unfortunate. Okay, that I did not mean to do. Okay, so we should be able to resume. Let's try it here. Can I do this? Yeah, okay, so /quit. I see. Okay, we were in the wrong directory. Okay, so we want this guy back. So now we have that guy. Split it left. And let's just see if we can restart this guy as well. I guess this one. I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna quit. Let's just quit. Let's start a new session for this guy instead. And we're gonna reprime it. Okay, now we would like to create a Ralph loop for the Kiro CLI. It should all start by creating a PRD. So it should start with this command or a version of this command. The only thing we kind of want to rewrite in this command is this where we store files. Instead of inside the PRP directory that is prompted here, I want to store files inside of .kiro /artifacts/PRDs. Okay. And what I'm going to do here, yes, I'm going to take, because I have a create PRD command that I'm going to use. So instead of creating a new PRD command or using whatever Ryan had created, I'm going to use my own PRD generator, which I know works, and that is good. So we're going to tell this guy here, okay, please, we crashed out during testing as we were implementing the plan in .agents/plans. Can you please read the plan in .agents/plan and continue testing? I want you to test all of the CLI commands. Okay, I think that you jumped ahead a little bit too quickly here. I just wanted you to create that, let's say, the PRD generator itself. Where did you create that? Yeah, that's where the prompt should store the files. So this should be a command. It should be in the prompt instruction itself. The thing that I pasted to you should be stored in .kiro/prompts. And the output of that file, where that file should store the PRD that it creates, should be inside of the PRD's directory. And it's important here that when the user runs, we can call it PRD-Ralph, then the first action it should do is ask the user what it wants to build. Once it's established what's to build, then it should follow the rest of the instructions, like asking all of the questions and so on. Okay, so now we have that created. Now I have another file here that we want to use to kind of run the Ralph. Okay, so when the PRD is created, the Ralph PRD, then it should be, the next step in the flow should be running something like this. That should then run the script to generate the JSON. It's also important that this file reads PRD. So the start of the script, instead of the arguments that is here, it should ask the user which PRD do you want to run on, similar to the other prompt files. Okay, so it seems to hang here too. What's the command? Take it there. Okay, there we go. We seem to be hanging here. So can you please look into why this is hanging? Don't run it again. Okay, can you please explain me exactly how this Ralph loop works right now? Okay, we don't need this stop hook mechanism here. So what we want to do instead is the Ralph loop.md should initiate the script, and the script should initiate the loop. I think we tried like that. We'll refine this. I'll test it out and then let's check. So I'm going to read through the script file and the loop executor. Okay, so this should work now. I read through most of the instructions. It should work. I'll test it, and if it doesn't work, then I will make some refinements before I commit it. Okay, let's then implement persistence. Do you think we should implement persistence through files or database SQLite? Don't implement anything yet. We're just discussing possible solutions here. Yes, we're going to go to Ralph PRD creation for this feature, and we're going to go with the file-based version of persistence here. So what I want to have is that saved, the persistence saved in a .shards directory in the root. And yeah, I think that's it. Keep it simple, core principles. Okay. Can you please commit and push everything we did in the source directory? Okay, I'm gonna just take a look here and make sure that we actually already did. Yeah, it doesn't matter. We're so early on, it doesn't matter that there are some mistakes, but there are some mistakes in what Kiro does. Like Claude Code would not just push everything without asking me, or at least it will listen to my instruction when I tell it not to. So we need to look out for that here as we continue a little bit. Everything here at least is committed and pushed. So we can, okay, I'm just gonna keep all of these open for now. Select file-based persistence and start the Ralph loop to the default 20. Okay, we're starting the Ralph loop. Let's take a quick look also at our credits. Sign in. Can we see? Okay, so we have 109 used credits right now, and it's starting right now. So let's let it run. There we go. I don't know why it has some issues finding stuff here. Okay, seems to be a bit confused here where it was. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, I'm going to iterate a little bit on the Ralph prompts for the Kiro CLI here as well to make sure that they are solid. I haven't read through them that thoroughly yet. If you do want to test the Ralph loop properly, you can do it in my PRP directory, as I shared before. It works really well with PRP. It works really well with what Ryan Carson shared as well. So you can try it directly from there. And yeah, if you want to test it with the Kiro CLI, it will also be up inside of my Shards directory, so you can just take it from there and put it inside of your own directory to try it out. Also, remember, we changed all of the prompts to now ask you which file to use as input instead of using the Claude Code argument syntax that doesn't work in Kiro. So let's take a look at that. We'll dig into more about functionality and continue building our application tomorrow. What I will do here now before I end, I will just run a /devlog, add to devlog, so that we can add today's progress to devlog. We didn't do much progress on the actual application today. We basically explored a little bit around the Ralph commands. I tested a few different things in Kiro. I don't think I got everything on camera. Unfortunately, some things, a few of the Ralph loops that I did are not caught on camera. when I fix some issues. But yeah, the Ralph Loop works, and you can see it's running right now. It's going to take a while, so I'm not going to film through the whole thing. I'm going to push everything when it's done. And yeah, I think that's it for today. I will see you guys back on Monday.